Before we begin, please be advised that this episode discusses sensitive and disturbing topics, including the sexual abuse and murder of a child. It contains explicit content and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised. A safe childhood requires a community that refuses to look away. We must be the eyes that watch, the voices that defend, and the unwavering barrier that keeps predators out of their world.
You thought this was your Run Club era. Turns out, it was more of a thinking about Run Club era. The good news? Someone's marathon training is about to start. Sell your workout gear on Depop. Just snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. They get their race day fit, and you get a payout for trying. Someone on Depop wants what you've got. Start selling now. Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast with me, Kay, the Texas girl in a Georgia world, baby. Ladies, how y'all feel? Fellas, y'all all right? It is Sunday, May 31st, 2026, and your girl is feeling honestly optimistic. I am so appreciative of all of those that reached out and sent emails and messages and left reviews and just everything. Like you guys are it's just y'all are so amazing and I really appreciate it for real. Like thank you. Like I said in the live video in the group, I don't want to end the podcast. Like I want to keep it going. I do, but the numbers have been declining and it's all over the place. And I don't think people realize in order for the show to be promoted within these apps and in order for it to be a suggested podcast, it's going to rely on a lot of things. It relies on the reviews, it relies on the streams, it relies on the followers, and if there's no followers, then there's no streams. And if there's no streams, then there's no reviews. And if there's no reviews, there's no way that, it's going to be recommended or suggested, Black True Crime podcast. So it makes it harder to find. Like it's basically, an algorithm. But, I am appreciative of those that have left reviews. That's why I'm always saying, okay, like, hey, I need you guys to, invite your people, follow the show, leave a review, all of those things. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I do appreciate everybody that has done it. I'm still trying to get my reviews up. I'm still trying to get my follows up. I'm still trying to get my streams up. So, hopefully over the next few months, things can improve, before I hit that 3-year mark. But anyway, that's not the topic at hand for tonight. Now, y'all know I gotta ask, right? What you sipping on? Now, I'm drinking some Liquid Death carbonated water as well as eating on some popcorn and frozen M&Ms. So, hopefully y'all got y'all little drinky drink together, because y'all know what time it is. We gotta get into it, right? Now, this case has been all over mainstream media because of the drama surrounding it. So, again, I will say listener discretion is advised as it deals with the molestation and death of a minor. Now, I'm going to try to give you guys a heads up when I can, but just know that y'all have been warned, okay? So hop on in and buckle up, baby, because we taking a ride back to not too long ago. We going to go back to 2024 in Detroit, Michigan. Now, 2024 was a year that had a lot going on, okay? Kendrick Lamar told the world they not like us. And basically, he broke Poe Drake down, proving that he was just lethal when it came to the pen. Bad Boys 4, Ride or Die hit the screen, and it was pure magic with Will and Martin, as always. Beyonce got her country girl on with Texas Hold'em. This ain't Texas. Hello. Diddy, oh Lord, he was arrested for sex crimes and racketeering. Tyler Perry gave us some historical imagery with 6888, and we saw Kerry Washington's little infamous lip curl. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That orange man got elected into the office again, and well, no comment. And Glorilla and Meg Thee Stallion teamed up for Wannabe, giving us girls yet another twerk song. You know what I'm saying? Oh, snap. 2024 was also when I got married. Whoo, Lord have mercy. We see how that ended. But 2024, although we had all of that going on, we also had the most controversial missing persons case that just turned deadly. Y'all ready to get into it? Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Naziah Harris, the victim, Shannon Harris, Naziah's aunt and Jarvis's baby mama, and the infamous murderer of the week, Jarvis Butts. Naziah Harris was born September 16th, 2010, to Mervyn Jennings and Kenyatta Harris in Wayne County, Michigan. Now, if you're not familiar, y'all know Wayne County is basically Detroit, and it's a city that's got grit. It's a city with soul, but it's also a city where you got to be tough from day one. And Naziah's circle was deep, but it had its, I guess you could say, its fair share of shifting pieces. For example, her biological father was a man named Mervyn Jennings, and Mervyn was married. Hmm. See, he wasn't with Kenyatta when she got pregnant. Well, I mean, he was with her, but they was just kind of just messing around, just getting it in, whatever, whatever. And he cheated on his wife with Kenyatta, and then boom, she ended up pregnant. Now, I couldn't find much on him other than back in 2001, long before Naziah was born, he was convicted of 2 counts of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder, and he was also convicted of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. So he got sentenced to 2 concurrent terms of 3 to 10 years imprisonment for the assault convictions and then a consecutive 2-year term for the felony firearm conviction. Now, her mother, Kenyatta Harris, she went by the name Lady, and she was pretty much out of Naziah's life early on. And it was really sad because, unfortunately, Kenyatta was basically sexually assaulted. She had endured a lot of abuse at the hands of one of her mother's relatives. And so, as crazy as it sounds, as bad as it sounds, it was, kind of one of those cycles that just never ended because Kenyatta ended up, turning to drugs and all of that. And at some point in her life, she crossed Mervyn, and the two of them, they started hooking up, they started smashing. It wasn't really I guess you could say, a relationship, but lady ended up pregnant and she gave birth to Naziah. And, she's still dealing with a drug addiction. She's still, dealing with all of these different things. And now Mervin is telling her, like, yo, my wife ain't gonna appreciate me fucking around with you and having a baby with you. Nah, I can't do that shit. And so he tells her, like, I don't want anything to do with this kid. Now, like I said, the streets are tough, but Naziah does have somebody in her life, a grandmother. And if you're not familiar with the Black family, grandmothers are like the bedrock. They're the ones who step into the gap when the foundation gets shaky. And that's exactly what happened here. Naziah wasn't left to navigate the world alone. Her biological grandmother, Annette Harris, she stepped all the way up. She didn't just babysit her, she legally adopted Naziah. That, ultimately became her mama, her protector, her provider. When Naziah laid her head down at night, it was under Annette's roof. And she was surrounded by that old school love, you know what I'm saying? That kind of love where you walk in the house and it smell like a Crisco can of grease, hot irons, and chitlins. Well, hopefully not chitlins, but y'all get what I'm saying. It was warm. That was the feeling that you get when you walked into the house, warmth. She knew that her grandmother was, basically in her life nonstop. Now, Naziah wasn't an only child either. Like, she had siblings. Now, I'm assuming that because of the fact that they were minors, that they didn't release the names, because I was definitely, trying to look and see if I could find it. I'm hoping that the website that I came across does have some validity to it. I'm still kind of, searching on that. But in addition to her brothers and sisters, she had her cousins, specifically her Aunt Shannon's cousin. Now, her Aunt Shannon was obviously Annette's daughter, and Shannon was whew, Shannon was she was, let's just say, she was different, okay? So Shannon had like 5 kids, and all of her kids were, close to Naziah. They all grew up together, everything. And y'all know, when it comes to like families, I feel like sometimes your cousins can be your first best friends. And that's how it was in this case. Now, Naziah, she was a sweet girl. She was a really good kid. She wasn't out there, wilding in the streets. She wasn't a runaway. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was just the typical 13-year-old girl trying to find her footing. She wore these cute little clear frame glasses, and she loved doing her hair. One of the last pictures that you see of her, she's rocking those little braided puff balls. Like, those were really, really cute. And, she enjoyed being a little fashionista. On any given day, she'd be rocking a bright, colorful Rugrats puffy jacket with the fur lined in the hood. And she would have on some, blue jeans and a fresh pair of Nike kicks. She was very much a TikTok kid. Okay. Like, she was very active on social media, making videos, taking pictures, doing the little dances, giving us very much Gen Z all day. But she was kind of quiet in her own way too. She used a school issued tablet to do a lot of her talking. She would use communication apps like Facebook Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, and that's how she would talk to people sometimes. She was a homebody that, stayed close to her grandma. And, she did what she had to do every day and she would go home. She didn't have a history of just vanishing or skipping out. She was dependable, a sweet, innocent teenager trying to grow up in a complicated world. Now, Naziah attended J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy. It's a Detroit public school community district school that was off of Bremen Street. And again, if you know anything about the East Side, you know them kids got to be sharp, baby. But Clark Prep was her spot. Naziah was a regular good student. Her school attendance record shows she ain't have a history of unexcused absences. She wasn't skipping class. She wasn't playing hooky. She got up, she got on that Detroit public school bus every morning, and she took her butt to school. Hell, even her substitute teacher, Miss Marilyn Lee, she testified later on that, Naziah was a regular presence in the classroom during the week. She was described as a young girl with her whole life ahead of her, trying to get her education at Clark Prep and, expecting to come home to her grandmother as soon as that final bell rang. And that was her life until she crossed Jarvis Butts. Jarvis Ramon Butts was born November 21st, 1982, also in Detroit. Now, this was like a time when, Detroit was kind of navigating some of its toughest economic eras. All right. So I'm not gonna lie to y'all. When it came to doing research on him, I was just overwhelmed. Okay. Like there was just so much shit that I was finding out. I'm looking at sex offender registries, I'm looking at court documents, I'm looking at mug shots, I'm looking at all kind of shit. All of these articles, all of these court documents. The one thing that I found odd was that I could not find shit on his mama or his daddy. Not one name, nothing. And I'm just like, okay, that's a bit odd to me. I don't know if they like digitally just removed themselves from this nigga. I don't know. But it was just really, really strange. Now, he does have a brother, Ian Butts, and a sister, Tana. And from the information that I found on him, he wasn't one of those that left behind a legacy, of positivity. Like he wasn't, in the high school graduation photos all smiles. He wasn't, the good kid with the great neighborhood stories. No. No. This nigga here, he left behind a legacy, but it wasn't one that you would want to, follow. Like, the only real footprint that Jarvis had was a paper trail with the law. And see, how I see it is some people stumble into trouble once and then they learn their lesson. But this nigga Jarvis had like a revolving door with the law. And that door included sex crimes. So when I was doing my research, there were a few articles that said that he was married to a woman named Marquita. Now, I am still trying to verify that because again, it's like a freaking ghost town or something when it comes to his past. Like trying to find marriage certificates and all of that. He was married prior and he was also arrested because he sexually assaulted an 8-year-old girl and a 4-year-old girl. How fucking sick is that? Like, yes, mobbers, y'all heard me say it right. An 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm talking about he's got prior convictions that go back as far as 2005. Like registered sex offender, the whole nine. And I'm sitting here like, okay, the system has already flagged this man as a danger to children. Why the fuck is he out? He's supposed to be watched. He's supposed to be tracked. He's supposed to be kept away from these precious babies. How the hell was he out? Because clearly he wasn't watched. Clearly he wasn't tracked. Because too many times, I'm sorry, but too many times, especially in our communities, the cracks in the systems are wide enough for monsters like Jarvis to just walk the fuck through. This nigga was all out in the neighborhood, hiding in plain sight, even though, the legal system had his name on this registry. But, it didn't really do anything because he's walking amongst kids known in the neighborhood as Uncle Jarvis. The fuck? Now, here's the thing. Jarvis didn't even have to try hard to get near to Naziah. He wasn't, some stranger lurking in the shadows at the bus stop or, driving a white van saying, "Hey, kids, I got candy." No. Jarvis was in a relationship with Naziah's Aunt Shannon. Now, remember how I told y'all that he was married? Supposedly, Not only was he messing with this chick Marquita, but he was also messing with Shannon. Now, him and Shannon, they kind of, started smashing and doing what they do and, all of that. And she just kept popping up pregnant and giving him baby after baby. Those were the cousins that Naziah was playing with. And so, from my research, it looks like Shannon had 5 kids by this nigga. Oh, there's so much I gotta say. Ooh, I want to wait for fair or foul so bad. So, like I said, to the family and to the neighborhood, Jarvis is just part of the circle. He's the uncle. He got that uncle title by association. And y'all know what I'm talking about. In the black community, we quick to give somebody that uncle title. This is why I say stop bringing everybody around your kids, because that's exactly how the devil works. He uses proximity to build a false sense of security. And that's exactly what Jarvis was, the fucking devil. He was known for getting close to women so that he could ultimately get closer to their babies, this sick fuck. And, it wasn't like Jarvis was being sneaky with it off the top. Like, at first, he's coming around because he's being daddy to his kids, although I seriously fucking doubt it. But this is letting him be around Naziah. And as you could tell by her picture, she is a pretty girl. She is a gorgeous baby. And Naziah, at first, she's looking at it like, okay, this is my uncle. It's an innocent bond. But right around 2022, behind closed doors, when this baby was barely even a teenager, shit, she's 11 years old. Jarvis is putting his plan of grooming into motion. He knew that Annette, her grandmother, could only do so much. And he knew how gullible his fucking girlfriend Shannon was. Gullible, blind, stupid, ignorant, whatever you want to call it. They had been together for years fucking around and they had all these kids. You know, Shannon wasn't paying attention to what was going on, or was she? And a predator like Jarvis, he smelled that vulnerability from a mile away. He stepped into that gap, not to protect Naziah, but to exploit her. He made her feel seen at her young age. He made her feel special. He's telling her, "Oh, baby, you so pretty. You not like these other girls. You more mature than them. I like how you carry yourself." Like all of that bullshit. And Naziah, she's going for it. She's young, she's naive. She don't know any better. And Jarvis is banking on that. He's complimenting her. He's texting her. All the while he's weaving a web that she couldn't escape. And Shannon is right there. And honestly, I feel like Shannon knew what was going on, but we're going to get into that later. But Shannon is right there playing the role of auntie and encouraging, the kids to get along and grow up together and all of that. Now, like I said, this started in 2022, okay? And Jarvis kind of starts communicating with Naziah through text messages. Now, reading these text messages, y'all, ooh, it made me sick to my stomach. This raggedy ass nigga, I swear, this just oh, y'all, it got me so damn mad. Y'all know how I usually am when it comes to these episodes. I can just get through it, but like this shit brought up some bad childhood memories. Like I'm grateful for therapy because this kind of shit make you want to send a nigga to their maker, like you and your funky ass mama, your daddy, and everybody else in your raggedy ass family that let your sick ass do what you was doing. Mm. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna do my best to save my feelings for fair or foul. I promise. But it's gonna be a little hard, y'all. I'm not gonna hold you. So, like I was saying, in reading the text messages, it was just like absolute sickness of what Naziah was dealing with day in and day out. Like this wasn't romance. This was straight up psychological warfare on a child. Now, like I said, the messages started back in 2022. This little grown ass man is sending sexually explicit text messages to a little girl, asking her for nudes. And of course, like I said, she don't know any better. She's a kid, so she's sending it to him. And then the ultimate manipulation tactic. He's telling her, "Oh, baby, if you love me, you'll send this. Make sure you erase the messages." Like right there, he's teaching her secrecy. Like you know what? It's early on, but this is when I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
Cause you got to be like, oh, you got to be stupid. You got a fucking history of raping young girls, of molesting young girls, of taking advantage of young girls. And then here you go fucking texting a teenager. You idiot. Got like it's just like your brain you got to have the brain cells of a fucking gnat. Like doing some dumb stuff like that, you make a wall look smart. Like I swear, because if you don't want to get caught, why the fuck are you texting a teenager? Why are you texting her cell phone? Like, damn, if you were any dumber, my nigga, we would have to water you. Like, it don't make sense to me. You're telling her, oh, erase the text messages. This ain't fucking 1993 when people was using cell phones that was, you know, extra huge and as blocks and shit. Nigga, no, they got things called the cloud. Nigga, just because you fucking tell her to delete some messages don't mean that it's gone. You don't think that if somebody subpoenaed your shit that they can't pull that up? I can't count how many cases that I've done where the cops have subpoenaed fucking Facebook or Snapchat. Just because it disappears for your black ass don't mean that it's gonna disappear permanently, stupid. Ugh. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I'm back again. But like I said, you know, he's teaching her secrecy. He's teaching her to hide things from the people who actually care about her. He's creating this us against the world mentality. Like they fucking Bonnie and Clyde. Nigga, no. He's isolating her so she feels like he's the only one she can talk to. And if she did try to pull back or deny him what he wanted, you know, he would hit her with the guilt trips. There were times when she tried to say no. In the text messages, you know, he would ask her if she was naked and she would say something like, you know, no, I don't want to get naked. And then he would guilt her. Like, just think about the heavy emotional weight on a 12 or 13-year-old girl feeling like she got to please a grown man just so that he won't be mad at her. And then his response is like, oh, well, I'm not used to you telling me no. Like, that's cold as fuck. This nigga trying to make her feel bad for not wanting to feed his little sick ass fantasies and stroke his little ugly ass ego. Just because you light skinned don't mean you cute, fam. No. You know what? I'm sorry, but he remind me of the dude from the Tubi movies that got the long hair with the two braids like that look like a light skinned Doberman Pinscher. That's what the fuck Jarvis looks like to me, but I digress. Anyway, so, you know, he's literally just like wearing her down, making her feel like her boundaries don't matter. Now, I'm gonna read y'all some of these text messages, okay? Now, like I said, I'm warning y'all, this shit here, just get ready, okay? Take it with caution. Now, I'm gonna take it all the way back to June 5th of 2022 when this shit first started. Well, not first started, but y'all gonna see what I mean. Okay, so June 5th, 2022, Jarvis says, I'm at your house. Naziah says, damn, we were just there. Then she follows up with, you better not be in my room. I need another phone. I miss you. Jarvis then tells her, I stole your panties. Whew, okay. September 27th of 2022, Naziah says, come on. You okay? Where are we doing it at? Your choice. All of a sudden, Jarvis responds, then, you tell me. Naziah says, basement. You sure? Or job? Jarvis responds with, can you suck my dick, please? And make sure you erase the messages. Naziah says, Kay, that is what I plan to do. Now, that's just a few of the messages. Okay, that's just 2022 and a few of them. You telling who this nigga stupid. God damn, you gotta be dumb. You literally text this girl, can you suck my dick, please? What the fuck? I'm really wondering if maybe he should have been tested, because how slow can you be? So going into 2023, June 24th of 2023, Jarvis says, send me some pictures, please. Naziah says, don't you still got the other pics? Jarvis says, no. She says, I will send some. 3 days later, on June 27th of 2023, Jarvis says, "Are you naked yet?" Naziah says, "No, I didn't want to get naked." A few minutes later, she says, "Are you mad I didn't get naked?" Jarvis tells her, "I'm not used to you telling me no." Naziah says, "Come on, babe, I'm sorry. Just not in the mood right now. I'm sorry." Y'all, this is making my blood boil. You got a 13-year-old fucking texting you and apologizing to your grown ass. How about you get your grown motherfucking ass up and go get some pussy from your so-called baby mama? How about you get your grown motherfucking ass up and go get some pussy from a grown fucking bitch, not a child? Sick mother. Oh, and y'all, the text messages kept going from there. Like, not only is he texting her, like I said, at this point, he's molesting her. And it wasn't just a one time thing. He would come over there constantly and take advantage of her. He was blowing up her phone with, explicit messages, demanding photos. He even bought her a phone, completely bypassing her grandmother's knowledge so he could keep an eye on her. And the really bad thing is Naziah is thinking that this is love. He's buying her a phone, he's giving her stuff, and she's taking everything. But in the same time, she has to give stuff in return for what she's given, and she has to give her body to this man. When Jarvis would come to the house, he would rape her. He had her skipping school so that she could spend time with him. Like, he kept everything secret. He's messaging her through WhatsApp and Instagram and through her secret phone. Like, he's exploiting her innocence, using like his family as a way to hide in plain sight. And using phones and secrecy to isolate her until she was trapped. And then Naziah found out that at 13, she was pregnant. Now let's get into those messages. September 26, 2023, Naziah says, "Bae, you up?" Then she hits him with the question marks. She says, "My period haven't came at all." She says, "Hello, you there?" He finally responds, "What you mean?" Naziah says, "It have not came." He says, "Since when?" She says, "Since I was in the hospital." He says, "That was last month." She says, "I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I have to go to the doctor's tomorrow." He says, "You said you took a pregnancy test and it was negative." She said, "It did." He says, "So go get another one." She said, "I can't. I have no money. You go get one. You ain't scared to get a plan B, get a pregnancy test, and bring it later today. Just act like you have to use the bathroom." She says, "Please, will you do it? Hello?" And he says, "Okay." That was September 26th of 2023. Now, at that point, in the messages, you heard her say that she hadn't gotten her period and that the last time that she got her period was when she was in the hospital the month prior. Okay? So a couple of months go by, and on November 27th, 2023, some more text messages pop up. And Naziah says, "I just want to talk. I really don't want to lose you. Can we talk later? Yes or no?" Then she sends another message and says, "I don't know what your problem is, but I need you to bring me what I need tonight. It's hard doing all of this gym shit with this baby. And if I don't, I'm going to get an F." And he did not respond. That was November 27th, 2023. She clearly at this point is at least 3 months. Now, this last message is the final text exchange between Jarvis and Naziah before she went missing. This was January 9th of 2024. Naziah says, "Don't forget to be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait." Then she sends another message that says, "Send okay if you see the message so I can delete your number." And Jarvis says, "Okay." Y'all have no idea how I'm like trying to remain calm right now and I'm steadying my breathing because this is pissing me off. Like, this is really hard for me to get through this episode because reading these messages just had me so fucking mad. Like, I want to reach into the grave and fucking smack this nigga. Like, you raggedy bastard. Not only were you raping this baby, but you weren't even trying to protect her. You didn't think of using a condom, you stupid motherfucker. Like, this shit is making me so goddamn mad. How the fuck do you just hurt somebody like that? You got a goddamn 13-year-old girl pregnant, you sick son of a bitch. All this shit got me hot, y'all. I'm sorry, but this motherfucker really took advantage of her. You raped her. You manipulated her. I hate niggas like this. I swear to God, it makes me want to fucking do damage. Like, I'm sorry. I know that this ain't fair or foul yet. And I said it, I was gonna wait, but some shit I just gotta speak on. Like, I want to bring his ass back from the dead and fucking. Ooh.
Athletic Brewing Company crafts award-winning non-alcoholic beers for those who want to be part of every round. With over 185 flavor awards, they're exceptional NA beers that fit your lifestyle and any social occasion. Summer's full of good times, and Athletic fits right in. Go to athleticbrewing.com to have brews delivered to your door, or find them at a bar, restaurant, or store near you. Near beer. Athletic Brewing Company. Fit for all times.
Okay. Let me try to steer this back on course here, people. I apologize. I apologize, mobbers. So, like I said, by 2023, the abuse had escalated to a terrifying level. Like, this baby was carrying a burden that no middle schooler should ever have to comprehend. She was missing school, having trouble in class, all because she was dealing with the reality of being pregnant. Pregnant by the very man who was supposed to be a safe adult in her life. Like, imagine going to school and trying to be a kid, but your mind is consumed by the fact that a grown man has altered your body and your life. She texted him about having trouble because of her baby, their baby. And instead of stepping up or showing an ounce of humanity, this asshole made her feel like shit. He'd abandoned her. He wasn't trying to help her. Instead, this nigga was online searching for ways to make it go away. And I'm talking about going online looking at abortion pills and even going to look and seeing stuff like drinking red antifreeze. That right there tells you everything you need to know about what type of environment and fear and abuse that she was trapped in. For Jarvis, Naziah was a secret that he needed to manage. A problem that he created that he wanted to erase, like all the other problems that he had, the problems that he did with the 4-year-old little girl, the problems that he had with the 8-year-old little girl, with his ex-wife's kids. That's what Naziah was to him, a problem. She was a liability. We can't even begin to fathom what was going through Naziah's mind during those final months. She just wanted to be loved, y'all. She just wanted someone to care about her, to protect her. And instead, she got Jarvis Butts. She's thinking she got a man that loves her and got a boyfriend. You got a man who used his position in the family to steal her youth, abuse her trust, and subject her to a fucking living nightmare from 2022 all the way leading up to her disappearance in January of 2024. Now let's get into that, okay? January 9th, 2024. It's just a regular Tuesday at J.E. Clark Prep Academy in Detroit. Naziah is doing what any normal 13-year-old is doing. She's being a kid. You know, she got her hair done up in those 2 braided puff balls. She's rocking her clear frame glasses. She got her white sweater underneath her black jacket, light blue jeans, Nikes, and that Rugrats jacket that she likes to wear. And so the security cameras catch her getting on the school bus and, everything looks normal. But what people didn't know was what was happening on her school issued tablet. Now, remember, I told y'all that Naziah was talking to Jarvis on a secret phone. Well, see, Naziah was also using that Detroit Public School tablet to communicate with his ass. And before the final bell rang, she took one last picture of herself on that tablet. And then she sends a message to Jarvis that reads, "Don't forget to be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait." So she leaves school and she gets off the bus at the end of the day. Now, the cameras do catch her walking in those same clothes that she had on from earlier. And just like they had planned, Naziah meets Jarvis. Now, Jarvis wasn't by himself. Here's the funny thing about that shit. On January 9th, 2024, Jarvis was actually scheduled to turn himself into the authorities on a completely separate gun charge. On top of everything else, this nigga got a gun charge too. But they ended up pushing the date back to February, so it kind of, I guess you could say, freed up some time for him. So, like I said, she leaves the school, and the next thing you know, she meets up with Jarvis. Now, Jarvis is with one of his coworkers. He worked at this auto repair shop on Connor in Detroit. So she meets up with Jarvis and his coworker, and they go to the shop. Now, there, Jarvis's sister Tana is there. She actually sees Naziah. So Jarvis, his coworker, and Naziah, they get in his coworker's car and they drive to Ypsilanti. And why they drove to Ypsilanti is the big question. So they drive to Ypsilanti and then they come back to the shop that's on Connor Street. Now, Jarvis's phone puts him at both locations, not Naziah's. So the theory is that Jarvis took her to Ypsilanti and that's where he got rid of her. Now, at around 9:30 p.m. to maybe 12:20 a.m., Jarvis goes and checks into a hotel. And there is a receipt confirming this, but he checks into this hotel, and all of this while, everybody is wondering, where's Naziah? Like, there's no, her school records show no previous record of unexcused or unexplained absences. You know, she had no contact with her family or friends after she left. She didn't have any medical issues that would, cause a life-threatening emergency other than the fact that she was pregnant. Okay. So, like I said, after he comes back from Ypsilanti, he came back by himself. Well, with the coworker, but Naziah wasn't there. And then, like I said, nobody sees her after that. Her grandmother, Annette, she's at home and she's waiting. And, she's like, my baby ain't came home. So she's questioning. She's like, okay, where in the world is Zaya? She should be home by now. Now, Zaya's not a runaway. She, like I said, she ain't have a history of skipping school or staying out late. And so after a while, Annette decides, you know what? I'm just going to call the cops. And so she does just that. They come out to the house and they do a missing persons report, and the Detroit Police Department, they hit the ground running. Now, understand, mobbers, that when a 13-year-old goes missing in the city, every second counts. But tracking this case meant diving deep into every aspect of Naziah's life, including the digital part. So the lead detective, Sergeant Shannon Jones, and the Detroit Police Department, they knew that they had to start with, who she's talking to, because she's a teenager. Of course, she's going to be texting. Of course, she's going to be talking on her phone. Of course, she's going to be using social media. So they're checking all of that. One of the first things that they do is pull the data from her school tablet, and boom, there it is. Messages that point directly to Jarvis. Low key, I'm kind of wondering if Naziah did that on purpose so that there was some type of paper trail. Like, I mean, when you think about it, that's kind of smart as hell. But investigators didn't just stop at the text messages. They started digging into the hardware. They tracked down a jailhouse phone call between Jarvis and his coworker, where he was talking about, a Cadillac that the police had impounded, because after all of this went down, and they found out that Jarvis had driven to Ypsilanti, they took that Cadillac. Oh, I'd be hot. If I'm your coworker and I take you to Ypsilanti or let you use my car, and then you fuck around and get my shit impounded, oh nigga, you gonna catch a fade. So they impound the Cadillac, and what do they find? They find a hidden cell phone. Baby, when the tech team got a hold of that phone, the floodgates opened all the way up. We talking about a massive digital extraction. Hundreds of gigabytes of phone data, text logs, and location pings. And what those location pings showed completely broke the case wide open. See, on the night that she vanished, Jarvis's phone data shows a highly erratic timeline. The day that she disappeared, like I said, he left the auto shop on Connor, goes all the way to Ypsilanti, and then zips right back to Detroit. So by 9:30, his phone places him checking into that hotel, and he stayed there past midnight. But it's what happened the very next morning, January 10th, that turned kind of a missing persons case into something far more sinister. So the cell phone towers don't lie, mobbers. On the morning of January 10th, investigators traced Jarvis's phone pings straight to the area of 7 Mile and Berg Road, right by the Rouge River in Detroit. Now, if you know anything about the D, you know the Rouge River can get real heavy and isolated. So the Detroit Police Department, they don't hesitate. They call in the heavy hitters. They called in the Michigan State Police. They call in the FBI, the U.S. Marshals. They brought out the K-9 units, the dive teams, forensic analysts, the whole freaking gang, okay? They out there canvassing the freezing woods and looking through dark waters. They trying to locate Naziah. They trying to find her and bring her home. And although they don't find her, deep in that 7 Mile and Berg area, the investigators recover a pile of discarded clothing. So they go to the family with the clothes and they're like, hey, we need you to look at this and see if this belongs to Naziah. And they look at the clothing and the heartbreak just sets in. It's the exact outfit Naziah was wearing the day she disappeared. The light blue jeans, the jacket, everything. But when the crime lab gets these clothes under the lights, things get a little intense. See, the Michigan State Police forensic experts noticed that there was clear and undeniable damage to Naziah's clothing. Like there were rips and tears that showed that a struggle had taken place, a violent struggle at that. And it didn't just stop there. They also ran the forensic tests on a black sweatshirt that Jarvis owned and then a pink bodysuit that belonged to Naziah. And of course, there's blood on both of them. Now we're going to stop here because honestly, I need to gather myself because I kind of got out of sorts a little bit tonight. Not to mention the amount of evidence and stuff that we're going to get into part 2. We ain't even touched the arrest or the trial yet. Oh, but trust me, we will. But for tonight, that is all for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. Obviously, there's no fair or foul this week because this is only part 1. But no worries, mobbers. You only have to wait until Wednesday to get part 2. I'm not going to make y'all wait a whole week. I'm not going to make y'all wait until Sunday. So you just got to hold out a few days, okay? Because this is a really special series. It's near and dear to my heart. And I really wanted to get into this. But in the meantime, you can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. That's a number 1, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private Facebook discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. But please be advised, if you don't answer the questions, you ain't getting in. Y'all know this by now. But once you get in, let's chop it up because we talk about the real in there and everybody has fun. Come on in, take a seat, tell us what you're sipping on and where you're from. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So leave a review. It only takes a few seconds. Like I said, y'all, these reviews really do matter. Whether you realize it or not, they do, okay? And now 2 of those reviews. And you guys really showed up with these reviews this week. Like I was really feeling love, for real. Now, the first review comes from Apple Podcasts from Miss Pris116, and it's 5 stars captioned, "You are loved." And it says, "Hey, Kay, it saddened me to hear you feel there aren't people who love what you bring to the Black true crime community. I love listening to your podcast and the research and respect you put into sharing stories. I'm a 786 days hashtag sober sister, but I make sure I have a beverage to sip on when we get it. You and the space you hold are important. Okay, well, first off, Miss Pris 116, congratulations on your sobriety. I am super proud of you, hun. Like, what an amazing accomplishment. Keep pushing, keep striving, my sister, and thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Now, the next review comes from Spotify from Sarah F. on the We'll Always Be Family episode, which was the episode on King Bell. And it says, Kay, girl, keep pushing. My kids and I love listening to you. Please stay encouraged. You're an amazing storyteller, and I look forward to hearing you every week. Your storytelling definitely got me through a very difficult pregnancy. My daughter been a listener since in the womb. Keep going, sis. Strong arm emoji. Not you and the kids listening. Well, thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. And congrats on a healthy baby. I don't know how old the baby is right now, but be careful letting that baby listening to true crime, okay? But low key, I ain't mad at it. Now, I do want to take a minute to say thank you to everyone that reached out again last week. It was really hard. And I'm not saying that I'm quitting, but I'm not saying that I'm not either. Like I said, there's a lot of things that go into this, show and these episodes. Reviews are one thing, streams are another, the follows. And, I've had like 8 new reviews since last week, and I'm appreciative because that's what helps get that show promoted. The more reviews, the more the streaming apps recommend the show to others. And then, there's the streams. The streams have dropped significantly. And, it's been hard trying to get them back up. I'm trying to come up with ways to keep the show popping without, like doing too much or emulating someone else too much. And, I'm doing what I can, but, it's kind of up to you guys, the listeners. So I'm giving it the next few months to see how things go. And, hopefully by the time the 3-year mark hits, I can say, all right, let's go for year 4, so we shall see. If you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor that y'all been sipping on and that liquid death that I've been sipping on, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. You can also donate via the Cash App at $infamous1pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Donations go toward court documents, interviews, JPay, all of that, because the shit is costly, okay? If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you just want to leave a review, send an email to infamousonepod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. And once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast can grow, but it needs to be shared. So keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all Wednesday with part 2 of this special series. Stay mobbing, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.